You know, we didn't see you.
Now, we're in the Jim Borelli household here for some tips on how to open a package with a pair of scissors.
Is that a birthday? That's a birthday present.
Baby Lena's going to open her birthday present.
Let's see if she likes it. I'm sure she will.
Lena, it took me 2 months to make this.
What is this, Pro-Stunt wrapping?
Yeah, Pro-Stunt.
You'll see why it's in a
It's called top dollar wrapping.
Go ahead, you open it. Look at those pretty ribbons.
Come on, Lena, open it up.
What is this? What is it?
Ooh. You know how long it took me to make that, Lena? Come on. Oh, wow.
Look, pick it up. It's so...
Whoa. It's a Karen doll. Now, Jim, on your next pattern master, put that right in the cockpit. That's the pilot for your next plane, Jimmy. I hope you got a nice big canopy in there.
Isn't she beautiful?
You should have told me. I would have brought out some of that Brodak dope for you to try.
I told you.
Now, the reason Jimmy's not building a big plane, he's had trouble with his back. And basically he's milking it, I think. Where's the shark? I thought you were going to have the shark out there. I don't want to say Jimmy's a slow builder, but we looked at the postmark on the box of the foam wings, 1990. Scott Smith wasn't even born yet. So what are you going to do? You're going to just fly for 35 ships till your back gets better?
I just built this just today.
Where's the rest of the stuff? Downstairs? What? No. You had that little planer? What? How's Peggy and Joe doing? Look at this. Jimmy's Budweiser playing. Now what this is, he's going to change this room around. There's the Shark 45. You're going to change your room. You're going to make your shop down a cellar now, right?
Yeah.
That's the deal?
Everything goes in the cellar.
Yeah. Where's the postmark?
Oh, I threw the box away, but these wings, wings are from 1990, Scott Smith Specials.
The wood is petrified.
It's so dried out, it actually lost weight.
Oh. They'll be white. You just store them for 10 years before you fly them.
Dad!
Yes?
Do you see culinary place?
No.
I know what you need, Jim. I know what Jimmy needs is a few more windy videos. What do you only got? You only have about 100 here.
This is the remaining. This is what remains of the wind dancer.
Oh wow! That's the invisible plane.
There was a plane attached to
the invisible plane. Oh man!
That's it. That's all there was.
Well, you don't have anything done in the shop downstairs yet?
No.
I'm sick of looking at my Spitfire and so I want to get the damn thing painted.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's it. Nina.
Where's that big dolly?
Where are you?
Big dolly. Daddy's going to use it for a pilot.
Nothing in the kitchen. No, it's in the den.
Where's that dad?
Okay, what more?
That one, the wing folded.
Yeah. In Arizona, that picture.
Where is she?
Karen's hiding on you. She's hiding. She wants to take the doll home. Now, Jimmy, this is a funny thing. We're here in Jimmy's shop, or what soon will be his shop, looking at the Shark 45 kit. I took out, and of course, being a kit manufacturer myself, I'm always interested to see what the kits of the past look like. And I have to tell you, this is not exactly what the doctor would. In fact, I'll tell you, I'm down. I can see why guys dropped out of the hobby when they bought some of these kits. This one is terrible. Beautiful design, and when I was a kid, I was just a fan of Lou McFarlane like you couldn't believe. I dreamed of the day I'd have a Shark 45. Bill Simons and I each built one. His was about 2 pounds overweight. Mine was probably 6 pounds overweight. Get the control horns out of that kit, Jimmy. I got to show you what you get for your money here. Open that up. Anybody complains about one of my kits, there will be bull. Give me that horn. Now check this out. This is in, holy mackerel. The thing isn't even soldered in the middle. Doesn't, it looks like it's spot welded, maybe it isn't. No, it's sort of. Look at these horns. Not bushed. Wow. I can't believe this. This is unbelievable. Anyway, this is from the old chart. But this isn't the most impressive thing I've seen. We just happened, and Jimmy has, this is a Shark 45 wing, and the wing from and it's not a Cardinal wing, but it's from another modern kit manufacturer. And we held up the airfoils side by side now. The Shark is the bigger of the two, and it sticks out the front and the back, but the airfoil in between is exactly the same. So it just shows you that Lou McFarland was really either way ahead of his time or really way behind the time. I'm not sure. But I got to tell you, if you have one of these collector kits, it's a great collector kit. Don't build it. Save your time and energy, boy. Look at this wood. There is some wood in here that I think you could mug people with this wood. Look at that. Oh, the women are back. Anyway, Lou, I got to tell you, we love you. And Lou, by the way, this is... Now, Jimmy knows the story of this. I don't even know the story. This disclaimer came in the kit?
In the kit.
A disclaimer from Lou McFarland came in the kit telling you how many things you have to change. Basically to throw the wood away and start with good wood. Wow. This is hard to believe. I had never seen this previous to coming out to Jimmy's. But anyway, memories of days gone by, and put it back in the box, Jim. It's a great collector kit. Use the foam wing. If you think it all hasn't been done before, just look at these two airfoils. Unbelievable. Tough on the equipment of years gone by, even with the disclaimer, but believe me, I really wanted to have a Shark 45 when I was a kid, boy. Woo! It just goes to show you, years ago, that stuff wasn't like it is now. Everybody expects perfect stuff now. What's this?
This is the bell crank that came out of Misty.
Okay, and this was how many years old?
This is from 93.
Oh, it's one of my bell cranks, yeah. Any wear on it? None.
None.
None, okay.
And this is,
none is what it should have.
I would say, probably 1,200 flights on the airplane, on this bell crank. This, that plane was crashed by somebody.
Yeah, that's real. Nothing wrong with that. This unsolicited testimonial from this man. Oh man, we could get you to do your commercials or something.
Take it from one who's a perfectionist.
These are used horns, okay?
Take it from one who's a perfectionist. Buy Pro-Stunt products. They'll never fail you.
Okay, Jim, would you like a check or a Visa card? Or a pizza pie? And this man has not been drinking today.
And I gotta find. I gotta find the horn that he gave me.
You took the horns out of the plane after it crashed, and they had no wear and tear on them. Is that the deal?
And this was the horn. I believe this was the horn out of the same plane.
Out of Misty. Well, that's an old one. That's when we first started making them. We didn't even have the plating.
Yep.
Perfect. I like that.
So the stuff works.
Not exactly what comes in a Shark 45 kit. Is that what you're saying?
You got it. You got it. And I got a bag full of them, all different sizes.
Yeah. Yeah, save them.
One's as good as the next.
Save them. They don't wear out. Even after they've been crashed, you can rip them out and use them over again.
Don't forget, Pro-Stunt engine pack.
What an advertisement this is going to be.
Here's another used.
What happens to the planes?
The planes.
No planes. The controls live on, but the planes don't.
And honestly, I don't crash them.
Oh, no.
We give them to other people to crash.
Oh, my God. This is the worst testimonial I've ever heard. We're in the middle of a snowstorm. Mike was out. Were we out yesterday with this? And he's got some kind of vibration problem we're trying to solve, so we'll take a look at it in a minute here. All set to go?
Yep.
Well, one of the things, what we did, we balanced the prop. Anytime you suspect vibration, balance the prop first of all. And we have two different size props, so we can see if we're in a resonance range where we're coming in and out. Well, one of the things I've noticed in years gone by, if you put this kind of a cheap cal, what really should happen is you should connect this to the ring. This should be connecting this. This is really not doing what you want it to do here. It's turning this whole thing into a diving board, but Again, that's easy enough to replace if we figure out that that might be the problem. I don't know.
Okay.
You shaking stick? How about a battery? No matter what tank you're using, you can see this will just have air bubbles in it. One of the other things we could try, and again, we're going to try just to see how much, what it is. A lot of times by mounting these in a softer mount, like we put some sponge rubber in there, some closed cell foam. I think I have some closed cell foam. Let's take the muffler off for now. Let's take the motor out anyway. I want to take this. The idea of this is this piece should be connected to the ring, so it's really easy to cut this off. And I wish we could blame somebody else for this, but we... No problem.
Yep.
All right, take that apart. The kind of thing a lot of new people, not even new people, a lot of people in the hobby just don't really clearly understand is this has to connect to this. By doing this, this piston is going up and down, and it's making that nose like a diving board. And if it isn't any better, you get your money back. Or I get coffee or something, I don't know. I don't know what I get you.
Nothing.
As cute as this is, it isn't really doing the job it's supposed to do. What we're going to do, you actually could save that for something else. They can make an Easter egg out of it or something.
No, well, that's the...
But I want to clean this. If this works, we're going to test it first. Clean this off and make a block that connects this to this. It's the connection part here that's really important. This is actually, in my estimation, I remember that one Ken Thompson made one where you had a block of, I thought it was pine or something up here, and it was definitely better without that heavy piece. We're going to find out right away. Let's just put the motor back in, take it outside, and see if it got better or worse. This is not, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to do any of this stuff. This is, what's happening, we're trying to get it out of its resonant range. It's in a resonant range where it's got a vibration, and if we can get it out of that range, it'll be perfect. All right, we found, we're really getting mad now. Whenever you're trying to get rid of resonance, the only choice you have is to try to connect the motor to the wing, and we're going to try to carve a block up. But first, we want to go right into real wood. Now, we took this apart. We found out the gentleman that made the plane originally, I guess this is what comes in the kit is light ply. I don't know, but you may as well be hard balsa wood. Hooking to paint or to oil soak wood. That wood actually is pretty good shape. That's all right. Well, what we did, we took all the paint and the finish off of here for now anyway. And what we're doing, Mike is putting back the bolts. I'll let them just stick through just enough so we're going to flood this whole area with epoxy and not hollow this out at all. And hopefully, well, we're going to find out. These are the kind of hit and miss things. We did this for Carlos Serra and it worked fine one time. You like to have a nice tight fit, of course, as tight as possible here. That looks like it'll be fine. All right, just put the bolts in and we'll mix up some epoxy.
Okay.
There really isn't any other way I know to do this. What happens is, we don't know, but we think the guy that actually built the plane put the mounts there, these little stubby mounts. When the mounts don't go all the way back to the wing, it can be that you made that, especially being this just light ply doublers here. Again, we're going to find out. You'll know the first time you fly this if it's going to work or not work. Now, what we actually did, we actually carved this piece out of a cardinal wingtip, and it didn't need a lot of changes. We got it drying up with some epoxy. While that's happening, Mike went and got some coffee. I want to make sure I keep a little pressure on this epoxy kicks off. But the significant thing is that we're in raw wood, we're not in paint. Gluing it to paint, of course, is not as good. In this case, we're trying to really make a structural joint here. And what I'm going to do when this is done is mix up some air epoxy and just make a nice little fillet around the whole thing, which will make it a little stronger and at the same time just make it look a little nicer too at the same, you know. Obviously it looks like a shoestring now or whatever, but that fillet is really a significant thing in trying to get this. Well, we're trying to make it for his daughter to fly too, so it has some reliability in the motor run. And that little fillet on the Brodack Cardinal, that's proven to be just perfect. There isn't a single crack in that anywhere after all the flights, and how many people flew this, I don't even know. Many. But that's a significant good little thing to have that fillet, no matter what shape you make it. And you can, when Mike's done, he can carve that, a lot of that wood away if he wants, but it's that joint right there that's really difficult to keep from cracking on a profile. Any profile you see that has a crack there, what happens? As soon as it cracks, oil gets in, and then that joint starts weakening up, and eventually you have this unlimited amount of vibration. So let's hope this cures the problem for Mike's daughter. Using this as a little demo so Mike can get a little feel for using air epoxy. Mix it 2-to-1. 2-to-1 by weight. Oh, it's fun to mix it, huh, Mike?
Oh, great.
Well, you gotta mix it, and when you see it's all the same color, mix it another 2 minutes.
There might be something
Hold it, George.
tomorrow. Try to hold it.
How much are we paying you here? What do you think?
Put your hand over here in this...
Yeah, it's fun mixing that. We gotta get some sturdier containers. Anyway, the easiest part here is use a prop, get plenty of material on. If you really want to be pretty, you can put tape around the edges. We're just trying to build a fillet here. His daughter flies this plane, and we're hoping this is going to cure some of, all of, or none of the vibration problem, depending on the luck of the Irish. When I went to that class on making gingerbread houses, this is how I felt. I'm mixing this stuff and I'm saying, oh man,
This is not fun.
guys do this for a living?
This is not fun.
Go to pick up any extra that's on there. You don't have to make it real perfect because you can squish it down with a little bit of alcohol on the end of your finger too. Yeah, just pick off the extra.
Alcohol time.
Yeah, you want to get there, that's it. Blend that in just a little bit. This stuff is so light when it dries, it's ridiculous. You wonder how to make it that light. Just make it like a little fillet area in there. There's a new video we added to our collection here about how they make train layouts with styrofoam. The whole layout, the mountains and everything. A really neat video, by the way. With this little system here. It's kind of cool. Hey, anybody interested in, while I'm waiting for Mike to finish up, this is a thing, I thought this was kind of neat. I went and bought the video, and it shows how to make train layout, virtually the whole train layout except for the base of these pieces of pre-cut styrofoam, and you really could put a layout together. I don't know if you can do this in O-gauge. We're watching the thing, oh, it runs an hour, okay. It's from Woodland Scenic, and you can really, they have these in all the hobby shops around here. I don't see an 800 number or anything. Anyway, pretty interesting tape. Being we're all getting ready, George and Mike are all getting ideas for this new O-gauge layout here. You can just take your finger and some of the alcohol and just smooth it down. Yeah, you can make it as fancy as you want. Yeah. Try to get that to blend in and go around. Because you're going to have to sand that down. And then when you make this black, make the black paint come out here like a zig. So this is black, and it'll disguise it a little bit too. But if it works, see, that's a substitute. If the real motor mounts were in here, you wouldn't have to do this.
Right.
This is just a problem for I bet we won't mention Brian's name on video. Brian left out the mounts, I think. All right. Yeah, just wipe that down. Okay, this is, now next thing is Mike's got to sand it down. Get at least 5 coats of Brodack dope on that so it's sealed up. You don't pick up oil, paint it. And we'll give it a test next time you're down here. Next time it snows out there like today.
Yep.
All right. Not tonight. I don't have much time tonight. I put the whole plane together for a minute or two, just to make sure all the hinge pockets were nice and loose with all the paint. Make sure nothing's binding up here or anything. I wanted to see how it looks. This is really the first time I've had it all in one piece like this. And it looks like the next step in this is going to be to make up, well, I'm going to do it tomorrow, because another good point is when it's a late like this and you're really tired, it's not a great idea to run off and make a part. I really like to take time. This is going to need to be a really nice fit. I've got it equal on both sides, so I'm going to carve those pieces up tomorrow. Again, this is the first time that we've had it all up and kind of looking like it's in one piece, like a real plane. So, having said that, I'm going to pack it in tonight, get a nice early start in the morning, get down here and hopefully get those fillets made up or whatever we can get done. This morning, the first thing I wanted to do before I put this assembly back in is I sanded through the silver so I could see my center line, which is taken right off of the top block, center line of the wing. So when I carve and glue these fillets, I don't glue one up and one down. So just by sanding a little bit through the silver here, quickly it exposes where the center line is. And the first thing I want to do is I want to get the flaps on and verify that they're both in neutral, that I haven't, and then I can tighten that horn down relatively tight, not relatively tight, but just tight enough for test flying, because I don't want to start with one flap up or down when I start on the trim of the airplane. And I'd like to have we're using this system, the flap neutral is always the elevated neutral on the inboard side, and the outboard side becomes the tweak flap. Again, being this is the first time we've used this system, we're going to find out right away whether we like it or not. And if we don't like it, of course, we can just lock it neutral. Okay, now the number one thing, because I have that little adjustable horn, what I did, I don't know if you can see this real clearly, I have this flap right in dead alignment. And while at the same time, I want to make sure I have this one in dead alignment, both at the same time. Now, since we're going to put new finish underneath where the little fillet is, once I have these lined up, I had the elevators on, I took them off just before I got the camera. Again, it's so important to understand this, that you have this flap and these two elevators always in neutral. If these are not in neutral at the same time, then that outboard flap is not giving you an accurate adjustment. That is obviously the whole purpose of doing it this way. Okay, so with that in mind, now we're ready to go find a little piece of the 5/16 wood or 3/8 wood, a nice light piece with straight grain, and start carving up these two little pieces. I found that I figured I'd pass this on. All the little imperfections that were in the fiberglass, I wanted to try that Brodak primer for other uses. So I sanded most of the silver off here and just put on a coat of Brodak primer just to see. Now see, at the beginning of every session, it's a good idea. This dries in about 10 minutes, by the way, is get all your sanding and everything done, get a coat of dope on. In 20 minutes or an hour, while I'm working on the fillets, this will be dry and I can put the silver on. So I'm always trying to get one thing drying while I'm working on something that doesn't need my attention. Now, I always start off with the punkiest piece of wood I can find and make a template. And what I want to do is, with the flap in place, the flap in neutral, I want to lay this right, and I want to make it a little bit oversized. In fact, that side isn't a straight edge. I want to make it just a bit oversized, and instead of using a pen, it's a nice, easy way to use is just use the tip of a brand new XL blade. Make the part back here oversized. Because we don't really know the final shape, it's always good to leave, well, let's leave just a little bit extra material. Now hopefully if we get this done right, we'll have a pattern when we're all left over.
But I had to. Women are the same. Who gets the this is not the way to.
I have the rough fit correct. Now I need to put in this side, put the little recess for the horn wire.
Which is why I can't sleep.
Little trick is you can take an Allen wrench or piece of wire a little bit smaller than the horn diameter, sticky back paper, and roll it up until you have just exactly the diameter that you want to have. In this case, we want to have a relatively, and I say that word diligently, relatively tight fit. I don't want any more slop than I need there. Now, if the horn hole, the little slot, is not the correct diameter, all you need to do, and this is real easy, is roll up another couple of thousandths. Each thickness a piece of paper will allow that. And you can make a really nice groove, and now if you want to make it real accurate, you can even mic it, I guess, if you want. Now off camera, I've taken all the, before I put the flaps on, I get a brand new XL blade and scrape off all the paint. I don't want any paint on those horn arms sticking out, because what will happen is once you put the flap in there, it can stick like a Chinese necklace. Look at this, President Nixon calling. Anyway, back from President Nixonsville here. This is an excellent way to make virtually any diameter of detailing sanding tool. Now see, it even stays, well, here as I say it unravels. I got dust on it. If you give it a good press, it'll kind of stay in that shape, and you can make all kind of little, you're making dashboards or wheel pants or something. You want these variable diameter sanding tools. This is a good one. Is what I do, and there's no secret to any of this. See, a lot of times what you do is you pick up the logic of how to do a certain thing, a certain cut or a certain finish or whatever, and you can apply that to other things. Now, even though this is in very rough shape, I can do a little test fit, and I can see right away what I need is to have this piece closer up to the wing. So now, I know I have the diameter real close. Well, it's kind of real simple to just take a couple of swipes with the paper each time until I get exactly the cut I want. Now if I go too far, I just make up another piece from that piece of scrap. Oh, looks like we got it pretty close now. If you follow the sequence here, and the first part of the thing is to get this, the little relief, to have that it's a nice tight fit on the horn. As tight as practical anyway. Now I know I can reach underneath, feel what I have. It's a little bit high on both sides, so I know I'm going to have to take some of that material away. By the way, this is a really excellent trick. Now, if I know I have to take some of this material away, and I know this is the end of my part right here, I can just put a pen line on here real slow. This is a part that usually a lot of people I know have a lot of difficulty figuring out how to get it. Now what I'm going to do now is connect. I know this piece is going to end right here, and I know it's going to be a little on the short side here. So I can connect these two lines back at the workbench. As long as I have those dots and lines right, the rest should come out right on the money.
I mean, what is so special about an English?
Now if you notice what I'm doing, I have this little piece of sandpaper stuck to the machinist rule. It helps hold it in place. And again, the easiest way to do any of these things is just make the whole part a little bit oversized to start with. See, I'm trying to look through the camera lens. It's difficult to do. Well, this President Nixon stays in the White House today and doesn't come to visit us. Now see, it's a little bit of offset here. So what I'll do is I'll leave this line on and sand this one off, just to get this rough taper in. An excellent tool is the old piece of tune pipe tubing, or anything really, any kind of lawn chair tubing. And I can get that angle in while I work up toward that. Again, I tried to make the piece a little bit oversized to start with. And it's these little details. When you see a plane and oh gee, after all that work, there's a clothespin or something there instead of a fillet. We don't care about that. That curve is going to get blended in even after it's installed. I'll keep working it. Always make it bigger than you need it to begin with, and work toward making it small. And if you go too far, just whack off another piece of that. So I want to leave that top line on. I had this a little bit offset. It's still no problem. Now I want to work down. This is the side I want to go a little bit extra on. And I know I'm a little bit big here, so I'm trying to get a blend. And I know eventually this will come to kind of a point or a disappearing point. I can work that in as I go. And there's no substitute. Just go back and forth and do a couple little test fits as you go. Now once I'm kind of satisfied with the shape, what I want to do is get a coat of thin CA on here. And that'll harden up the wood so I can hollow it out inside. And I know that's only about a millionth of a grain, but any little amount I can get out, of course, I'm happy to get rid of it. This allows me to put more semi-scale details, more cockpit instruments, more something anyway. Now you hope that by hardening up that little area, you'll make a little bearing on the wire and you won't get it to stick. And as soon as that thin CA kicks off, we'll sand it down, get a little smooth surface. No kicker here, just let it go off by itself. This will make fitting up the part a little bit easier too. And if you have soft wood, the minute you touch it with your fingertip or something, you have a problem. It's a lot easier to do this. See, part of the thing you can pick up off the video, and I don't think I'm some kind of special genius for figuring it out, is a lot of these parts are easier to get the finish on before you put them in place, like that little scoop. All the little details, anything you can do in your lap instead of doing it while you're banging into things, just makes it a little bit easier. Again, it's easier just to have that piece of sandpaper that you can move it around, constantly picking up a new edge. Or for these fantastic Baltimore 10s little block. If he only knew how many times I use these, maybe he'd charge me more. Great little invention. And once I get this flat, and that should be the base for, even if I need 2 or 3 coats, that'll harden up the wood enough that I can get in there and hollow this out. I want to see how much of this I have the surface that I want. See how much of this I can realistically get out of here. I know it wouldn't be much. But it's like attention to detail. Once you get in the habit of being careful about details and little weight buildups, being careful, you get careful about everything. So just like when you're on a diet, if you just say, I'll go have pizza. Well, you do that enough times and it's no point being on a diet. You gotta watch everything. The gods see everywhere. And if you think I'm kidding, just ask Karen. Okay, that gives me a little reference line. I can pull some of that material out of there. There's good uses for a piece of 64th plywood. I want to get in there, of course, and I want to hollow it out as much as possible. Since this is a part that's not adding a lot of strength. And you notice that one of the things I did was I ran the fiberglass cloth underneath the fillet, the same way I ran it underneath those blisters, so I wouldn't lose the continuity of that outer shell. I know you're probably thinking he's lost his mind, he's hollowing this out, but every little detail helps. Especially being we want to put as much scale detailing on this, and of course as much finish. You want to have the finish as nice as possible too. And no matter what plane you're building, and no matter what level of skill level you are, it never hurts to do the detailing. Now we have a nice shell, and this is ready to fit in for the final fitting. Now what I do, I just put up fold over an IBM card a few times, so that holds this in place. Then I tack glue it with thin CA. I let it sit. Flip it over and look at the other side, so that when I take this out, this gives me my clearance. And hopefully when I take it apart, I haven't glued the flap. Sometimes it'll, yeah, that's glued good now. I gotta kind of be careful wiggling this off. Always a little bit of glue will get in there, and what I'll do is I'll take the flap off and then work the horn with a pair of pliers. But now I can start sanding that down, and I know I have a decent fit there. They have plenty of glue got in there, so that's, in a way, that's good. It'll keep it kind of sealed and tight. And I just want to work that by working the horn on the other side. And of course I'll reverse that. You don't want to just grab the flap and do it. You're putting a strain on the flap for nothing. And if it really is pesky, what you can do is hold a soldering iron here and heat it up. That'll always get rid of the CA too. Area where it joins, needless to say, it's always kind of a funny thing, and I want to get a blend in there. So I hardened it all up with thin CA, got it as level as I could. And the last step is, and I really can't get a sanding block in there, I want to get a blend and hopefully not go through in any spot. I just have to keep using my finger. And I want to leave behind as little of this material as possible. So I want to put some silk span over that joint or some carbon fiber, something anyway. That's a joint that on many planes, even front row, beautiful, well-made planes, it tends to crack. So if I can get this smooth, I get a couple of coats of dope on there, and I can lay in and maybe try some carbon mat in there. Oh, I think the silk span would be a little stronger, but again, this is the kind of thing you got to do. You really can't get a sanding block in there anyway, realistic. Just a couple of tips. It's better to put a lot of thin coats on, not one thick coat. And while I'm waiting for this to dry, I'm going to run over and make the other piece up. I haven't started the other piece yet. And this is a good idea. Put a very thin coat on, thin as a piece of paper. While it's dry and do something else, come back, sand it. You know, you're going to need a second or a third or a fourth coat, it doesn't matter. But if you put one big glob on, it seems like it takes forever to dry, and later on it distorts and bubbles and everything. It never really dries out the way it should. A lot of thin coats when you're doing that kind of work are always better than one thick coat. Now the next step after a really good sand that in, I want to bring this tissue right up. This is the spot where it always has a tendency to crack. I'm going to let this just dry, pressing it down. I'm attaching this with clear dope, of course. I'll give it 4 or 5 coats if I can, and then rough sand it out. That's one of the real problem areas that always seems to split, even on well-constructed planes in time. They always seem to crack right there. Maybe that'll help. This is all I'm going to get to do today. We're so busy with this molding. Every day I have to devote about half of the day to doing mold layups. I'm glad to see that over the last year or so we've had such good luck with the Nobler Cowlings and with basically a lot of the parts, even the gear, that have been pretty well accepted, and part of the world is stunt now one way or another. I get a coat of clear on this. Tomorrow I'll come down, make up the other fillet. Maybe you can get some... See, as I'm going along here now, anytime I'm waiting for something to dry, what I try to do is look around for little spots to patch up. While I have the Brodak primer in the gun, I can just hit little spots at random. I worked on one of the little wingtips while I was waiting for this to dry, and one of the flaps, I got the cowl drying. So all in all, this was a pretty decent day. And one fillet per day. Can you imagine? Glad I'm not getting paid by the hour. Now today, last night I got on 2 coats of clear on this. I want to just get an idea how many coats of clear I need. Maybe I can get away with just having 2 coats of clear on here. I'm going to take it outside and shoot on some Brodak primer. Again, at this point, I just want to get a nice blend in of the surfaces. And I want to get some idea, and I remember this had a coat, it was tissued, and then 2 more coats, so it's actually got 3 coats of dope. I want to see if that's enough of a base for my primer. And these little areas like this, that the Brodak primer just works great in these little small areas where you can get rid of all the imperfections in a couple of coats, sometimes even in 1 coat. Now, where this fillet bends, what I'm doing is doubling over the sticky back paper so I can get right in that corner. Powder's right off, I love it. Transition here, this is the hardest part, and the best way I know to do this is to let the sandpaper just kind of walk up like a piece of rug. Difficult to get a sanding block, and I want to get in all these corners. I don't want to get a big buildup that's going to have a tendency to bubble up. I give that a little time to dry. Here we go, a couple coffee while this is drying. And then what I have to do, I have to start and just replicate everything from that point on the other side. Well, at least I know just about what I want to do now. I can copy the size. I have a little pattern for this, so it's real convenient to do it this way. Get one side completely done, but obviously everybody has a different way of doing it. That Brodak primer in the fillets, if you grind that with that folded piece of sandpaper in it, it seems like it really makes a nice easy fillet, nice quick bond. And the smaller you make the fillets, of course, the less chance there is they're going to pucker and bubble up and whatever. The next step is just replicate the whole thing. I'll do that off camera. We'll get back to this when these fillets are ready for, I hope, for some final sand out. In today's mail, while we're taking a little break, this is from Jim Carpenter. Now, what was really cool about this, the name of his company is J&J Sales, Joe Just and Jim Carpenter, and I guess he's got a little business, I'm not sure, but he sent a couple of pictures of a stunt ship that he has, and I'll put the card on for, it looks like he's in the collecting business. What was cool, he sent a little audio tape up with all the, like a little history of what he's been doing lately and everything, and it's real neat to have that. He also did a lot of molding, and he had a lot of ideas for making his own resins, and he mixed resin and granite, for one thing, which gives me some ideas. Anyway, it's nice to know we have somebody else that's done some molding. This is, by the way, let's just get this on the screen. If anybody's interested, collects kits, engines, whatever, hey, give him a buzz. And hey, Jim, I appreciate the audio tape. That's real nice. Here's another little tip. As I'm going along with the Brodak primer, I have it in a gun. Any spot I see that needs a little touch-up, it's real easy just to fog on just a little bit of that Brodak primer. It blends perfectly, of course, with the other oh, I can hear everybody laughing at me now. The other Brodak primer and the Brodak silver, a perfect blend. Now, anybody wants to send me a book on how to speak English without getting your tongue tied anyway, this is a good time to do it. All right, back to work. Wendy, it's not all coffee breaks and photo ops. Good tip for you, and I've used this several times already, is I'm getting ready to lay out the real paint job in my mind. I'm only a few days away from starting the real paint work. And I'm trying to go through here and figure out, from looking at the old videos, because basically the paint job is similar, which colors I want to do first. Look at it as it fades out right while I'm talking. I'm not having a good day here, am I? Anyway, when we going back, I can tell which colors, because I laid this all out on the original Spitfire, and boy, did it take a lot of time. And having the video as a record of how it was done, Well, obviously, if you don't have the video, you can use a set of notes, but a lot of times, what we're going to try to do with this plane is get so one coat, there's never more than one coat, or at worst two, like on the invasion stripes, of the colored pigmented paint. And that really is a weight saver. That is a good tip no matter how you do or what plane you're painting. Pretty much all these planes, wherever that's colored paint, there's never more than one color of paint, one thickness of paint. And that is a real weight saver in the overall scheme of things. It's something to strive for. That old sanding sponge that Dave Midgley sent, boy, does this put a nice finish on the fillets. And when it's wet with M600, it's just about the right cutting. I wanted to get this on kind of a close-up, because this is always a spot where the sandpaper folds back, and when it folds back, you have a tremendous pain in the neck. Look how that just takes it right off. Again, these I got from Dave Midgley. I don't even know the part number yet, but we're going to find out. Dave has told me the canopies will be here in the next day or so. They're already done. Dan's, mine. We're ready to rock. Boy, that's the ticket for sand and fillets. Yeah, that's the first coat of silver on that side, and that's probably all we're going to get to work on him today. These are the wheel pants for your Cardinal, right?
Yeah.
You got the wheels yet?
Yeah, I have them. I have them with the kit.
Oh, okay. And put, you know, if you want to put a piece on one side.
Plywood.
Well, you could put a plywood piece inside. It depends how fancy you want to make them.
I'm going to put plywood on one side.
That's what I would do, yeah.
So you can put the axle on.
Exactly, exactly. You only need to hook onto one side.
Yeah.
The other side, and put the axle bolt that you can just see it. Otherwise, you can't land at the club field.
Right.
It's nice for concrete, but you can't land. So if you just can see the axle bolt, then what happens is enough of the wheel sticking out, you can land on that grass and no problem.
Yeah, you don't want the wheel to be buried.
No. And then when we make the landing gear, what we'll do is we'll make a little stop on here so it locks right on.
Yeah, I'm going to cut this out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's going to look good. Yeah, that's going to be fun. All right, now Rich got, what do you have? How many coats of clear on the plane?
About 8.
8 coats, and you got the last coat of talc, going to be sanded out. He says tomorrow this time he's going to be here. He's calling in sick to his, well, he can't call in sick, he is the job.
I'm going to call in sick to myself.
Oh, and we're looking forward to seeing that thing in one piece.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, now you're going to go basically now 600 and M600, sand this out, bring it back for the final. This is silver filler. We just sprayed this on today. Boy, that dried up nice, even though it was cold out there. Wow, that's nice. I like that. How about the tail? Yeah. Now, we wouldn't tell anybody that it blew over. He had it up on the grill. The wind caught the tail. It wound up in the neighbor's yard. And he says, oh, am I glad the camera's not running. Anyway, another project we're working on here, we're making up a nobler cowling for, this is going to be a Juno with a nobler cowling. Is this what this is going to be? I don't know if I can trust you, Robert. Sure, that'll work. No problem.
Interesting.
All right, you're going to put that, the wing is dry too, Rich?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to look nice. Just do a good job sanding it now. Now today I rushed to get this sanded out because it looks like we have an exceptional day for painting out here. Rich really walked out yesterday with a good day of painting. Anyway, this needs, and this side needs a little more work. This side, you can see what has happened. There's a dry spot right here. And so what I'll do, I'll just give this another, just very simple, another coat of Brodak primer. As long as I'm going to do this side. When I get back in here, I'm going to tell you about a video. I've been watching this for a couple of cycles now. This is a video on how they mold fiberglass fuselage wing composite RC planes. And this is the best video I've ever seen if you want to see how they mold some of these big giant planes up. Really appropriate, really inspiring information for me since I like molding so much. Anyway, we'll take this outside and get a coat of primer sprayed on this while the weather's available. Trying to take advantage of the fact that this is a relatively paintable day. It is cold, it's about 40 degrees, and what I'm trying to do is come up with some new, good uses for Brodak primer. And this is certainly one of the things, coming up with these little sorting areas. The sun on a day like today really helps kick it off, so what I'll do is I'll babysit it out. Anyway, you can see this sprays on relatively easily. And once that's dry, I'll flip it over and do the other side. I think it's only a matter of time before we find even more uses for this. When you have to deal with unpaintable conditions, and then you get a day like today, look at this, the collection of garbage here today. You really want to take full advantage of it. Now in this cold weather, it's been taking about an hour for this to dry. But I'm going to babysit it out here, and then I'll take it back inside and it should be ready to sand. Now while that's drying up, let me just put a couple thoughts forward here. I buy all these videos. I'm just a video addict because what I find is from every video I learn something. And in this case, this video was pretty inexpensive. I'll put the number up here for anybody who wants to get a first generation copy. What it is, they showed the production facility and the flying and the assembling and some of the little details. Let's get this number up on the board here. It's Fiber Classics America, 140 South Camino Seco, number 419. The phone is 520-722-2240. And I believe, I'm not sure, I believe because I bought this with a credit card, it's like $15 for the video with the shipping and everything, so kind of like a windy video. But difference is obviously this is a professionally made video. And it's $1 million company, and when you look at some of the things that they show on the shop, if you have any interest in molding, you definitely want to have a copy of this in your library. This is one of the best. I wish I had this. Again, I always fit into the notch of I'm the one on the front lines, and then years later somebody comes out with a video that would have helped me. Well, yeah, I guess that's the problem Columbus had, no map. Anyway, this is a good one. And anybody that's really interested in this and on some kind of a budget, I'll be glad to loan you my copy, but let me know. This is an excellent one. Back years and years ago, and of course it was in the beginning of the Spitfire program that I got interested in molding, and I wanted to upgrade my skills. And I really have to thank a lot of people like Dave Midgley, Ed Gallagher, many people that have contributed information into my, or ideas, but into my little program. But what I find out, videos really are a good way to learn things and a good entertainment. Now, a lot of the things that in regards to this mold, and this is just some of the stuff I've molded for the control line stunt community, what you can see is that we've come a long way. If you've been following the videos since, who knows when, since 12 years, you'll see we've come a long way, and even in our own ability to make parts. And these parts have the little recesses for the bolts molded right in. you get some idea of the quality of the finish. It's real nice. They're roughly half the weight of aluminum, even though I don't look at a little imperfection in this one. I'll have to sand that out, of course. But one of the things, these parts really have filled a niche in the market. There was nobody that I know commercially making them where everybody could just dial up and get one. And now that market, there's a part available that was not available before, thanks to the world of molding and thanks to the development time and the help that I've gotten. This is a part that I hope is going to be, within a year or two, be very well accepted in the stunt world. Like the Brodak dope, another thing we've worked on for endless amount of hours. But we've really come a long way with our molding program. I'm sanding out this coat of Brodak primer. See how nice it fills in all these little grooves and divots and things you don't even see with the naked eye. Now the next step on this, of course, will be if there's still anything I can feel with my hand, I'll prime it. If I can't feel it with my hand, I feel it right here. I can sand it with 1200 and basically go get a coat of silver on it while we have some decent weather out there. Alright, I'm thinking we ought to put a coat of silver on this. It's about ready. And I know it's going to need more than one coat, so I may as well get one on. Again, I'm trying to take advantage of the fact that I have a relatively good painting day here. Show you a magic trick. Watch this. Abracadabra, Spitfire. I can see you're impressed. Enough magic tricks. Try a real magic trick is get this spray. Again, one of the things that's really an advantage here is the primer dries real quick. A couple hours and it's ready to rock. Always with the silver. Shake, shake, shake. Looking around, there was a couple of areas that I wanted to touch up also. Always do the bottom first. That's always a good way to get the little gun belt right. Boy, this turned out to be some day, I have to tell you. If I knew it was going to be this nice, I'd be flying. A little bit of extra paint in by the root will make that strip of tissue a little bit stronger even. There's a spot back here. Anyway, that molding video was really something special. I really did enjoy that. So we're working on our own molding stuff. We're going to even be making up a brand new, I have some molding rubber to test. A brand new Nova cowling was about worn out that the original one we had. Doing because this material dries so quickly. The real time saver of all Brodak dope is that the material dries and becomes sandable. Also, another trick, when you're doing little tiny, and I'm fixing little imperfections in here that are probably the size of pinheads, one of the good tricks is to take that material, make a little puddle of it, take a little puddle of acetone and kind of mix it together. I've done that over in a garbage can because I like to get the smell out of here. Karen's allergic to the acetone. And so what it's good, it makes it very thin and you can trowel it on then with a razor blade. Now, the nice thing about doing it that way, the acetone makes it dry a lot quicker than if you just let it air dry. In this case, one of the things I'm trying to do is before we lose the day out there, so if you live in a part of the country where you can paint every day, well, lucky you, right? But in this case, we work around snowstorms and ice storms and rich jack-o'-bone hangovers and who knows what else. It's just something that when you get a day like this, I like to get as many coats on as possible. By the way, I'm going to put on in about the next minute or two of this tape. Just got the final pictures of Joe Adamusco's Spitfire with the Seafire canopy. Wait till you see the paint job. Unbelievable. Now, you know, Joe thinks he's cute. He kept this a secret from me all along. And now he hits me with this picture. It's a piece of artwork, trust me. I'm jealous, Joe. And like all of Joe's stuff, it's absolutely flawless. And boy, there's another part of this that you hardly ever even think about. As a building, flying, I don't know, partner, I shouldn't say partner, Joe really was the brains behind designing up the original Spitfires. Then I kind of took the lead on the Seafire project. This is like a Seafire, what he has. And then we went into this I-beam wing thing, which I don't know where this is going to wind up. Certainly labor intensive. If you like labor, just build an I-beam. But anyway, beside the point, where do you see these pictures? I want to get outside, reshoot the fillets, all the little spots that I need to do, and then we'll get back here and look at Joe's pictures. Now, here's a good magic trick. I can make the plane appear. Here's a problem. I'd like to put the plane here and make all the flaws disappear and make it come out perfect. Well, I haven't been able to figure out how to do that trick yet. Maybe Joe Adamusco has, though. Abracadabra. Put that plane back. Your eye and band jack. Anyway, a good tip. Using Brodak primer. Okay, obviously shake, shake, shake. Okay, when you start spraying, don't spray right away. Spray into midair, because what it does is all the material that's in the tube leading up to the nozzle, you want to have that to be the material that's already shaken. Now, to give you an idea of how that works, take your silver gun sometimes, and if you've got clear in it or whatever, and you start spraying, it's clear, it's clear, it's clear, it's clear, all of a sudden it's silver. Yeah, well, with primer, you don't want to have that watery thin, it's all sank to the bottom primer. You want that primer to be the filler that's in there, right in the top. Now, all the little flaws, what I want to do, and this is a great tip, anybody that's going to be doing silver, you're going to wind up, if you sand through, back down into the filler or into the wood or the fiberglass or whatever, it's hard to get the silver to lay down real nice there. So what you do is just fog in a coat of primer. Watch how they do this at body shops. And just let it feather out, let it dry 10-15 minutes, and put the coat of silver on. And don't sand it. Just put it on thin and don't sand it. Look at this, plane's walking away. Banjo, put that plane down. What I'll do once that dries, I'll let that feather in. I will not sand it and go right in and put the silver right on top of it. Because I've been walking around and you get an idea. See, a lot of people think, oh, you build a plane, it's in raw wood, it looks great, and that's the end of it. Well, to me, the raw wood is not even significant. It's this finishing part that people really see. They don't really see the raw wood airplane much. They don't really see it at all, in fact. You can have the greatest woodwork in the world, and if you don't have the finished part of it nice, it's kind of lost. It's like having clean underwear. Nobody really knows. Well, almost nobody. But the point here is, if I like to put my time into the parts of the model that you really can see. And it's, I think, in part, all these little finishing tricks that over the years have accumulated on the videos, or whatever, that have upgraded the whole hobby as a whole. That so many nice planes are in the front row. Minato is the best one I know that he got his hands on some videos years ago, and all of a sudden, boom, he's a concourse winner. Blew me right out in 1990, in fact. Anyway, I'm not saying that was a major part of it, but in Kaz's case, I know he said it helped, so, yeah, who knows, I'll take credit for it anyway. He's not here to defend himself. Anyway, spoke to Frank McMillan today. His ship's coming along beautifully. He's doing the colors right now. Hope we get some pictures, Mr. Frank. See, this coat of primer you want to feather on because you don't want to sand it. This is just going to stay on. And if there's any dry spots, right now you want to get at least a minimum of one coat of primer over those dry spots. And it never ends. See, there's a spot out here. While I'm talking, see, I forgot this. There's a spot out here I did a little touch-up on. A little shot with the primer. A little shot with the silver. By the way, I noticed another thing. If you leave this material out in the sun, in 5 minutes, the sun itself is baking this thing. In 5 minutes, it's ready. There's one spot still on that fillet that I just can't see. There it is. There's just one spot back there that's still annoying me. And everybody, on every plane, there's one spot that just makes you crazy. And that's it on this plane. Now, while that primer's drying up and while that, I'm going to let that dry, give it a half an hour or so. Shoot the silver and that'll probably be the last coat. So that'll mean I got 6 coats of paint, 3 primers and 3 silvers on this today. That's pretty good for a day up in this area. Anyway, let me get these pictures of Joe's spit. Now, Joe originally, needless to say, was the original innovator on this. He did a lot of the design work, did all the design work, I should say. I notice he's got the Spitfire canopy on there, and boy, those are one of the most beautifully molded canopies Midgley made. A lot of people put a lot of effort into this. Bob Martens, Big Jim, people I don't even remember. Midgley put a lot of work into it. But anyway, what he's making here, and I'm reading his letter, it's a Reno Racer Fantasy Spitfire. Well, it's really a Seafire, but he has the Mark 8 rudder. A lot of other little differences here. And on the video, as soon as this is ready, we're going to be flying it. We're going to have the trim flights and the first flights and the... See, he's got the old style roundels on here, which I was anticipating maybe using. Really. Here's a picture at the bottom. And knowing Joe, believe me when I tell you, the workmanship is first class. This is world class stuff. This is not just, you know, maybe average. I don't know. It looks like he made the pipe tunnel short. I hope he made it big enough. Well, we'll see this in person real soon. Real nice on the bottom. Wow. Joe, I'm impressed. This is the first time I've seen this, by the way. Now, this young man's name is Ryan Now. Ryan's been watching a lot of videos, so I guess he's smarter than I am by now, but he's getting ready for the Brodak Fly-In 99. Looks like he's got his plane ready, and we'll be sending these pictures on to Stunt News. Ryan, I hope I don't have to hope, I know they'll publish them. Tom, if you don't publish this picture on the cover, you don't owe me pizza. Anyway, Ryan Now, we're looking forward to it. We're going to send you some more videos today. Check it out. He just started using Brodak dope, so we're going to see you at the Brodak Fly-In, Ryan. Now, as the sun goes down here, I really milked this day out. I got what I hope is going to be. And again, it depends how fussy you want to be. If you're real fussy, well, you know what? Just keep picking away at it. But I've used what amounts to be a very unusual day here. And I mean, some of the little things that were imperfections this morning really do look, well, if a plane doesn't show flaws in silver, when you put it into the whatever color, camel or whatever, there's no chance at all you're going to see a mistake. And this is the part at which all the little flaws, if you pick them up now and you take care of them, boy, when you're starting next week, we're going to start doing paint work. Now, it just happens that Karen has a few days off her job, and we're going to be basically making plans for our trip to England, so For the next couple of days, it'll be nice to know this is in silver and just sitting up by a heating vent getting ready to dry. Of a really mean, nasty, rainy winter, we've really stolen a day. This is great. And boy, this is what makes it all worthwhile. When you come in after a day of picking away at all these little flaws that can come on a mile, and you can get that silver. And it's like I say it over and over again. I know everybody's bored to tears, but if the silver is perfect, boy, you can be looking forward to having one flawless model when it's finished. And boy, now that I've seen Joe's model, see, that gets my juices flowing now, because I know he's my wingman. And I know he's home sanding and grinding and who knows what. And the truth is, he has a little more talent than I do, so I have to out-energy him if there's going to be any hope at all I can beat him at local contests or whatever. Anyway, he has been one heck of a partner, one heck of a friend, and really has made this whole Spitfire project just one of the true love of my lives. Another thing too, with so many people having an interest in semi-scale, and boy, I can't tell you how happy I am that that's happening. I thought at one time when Joe and I did this, it would be the only two semi-scale planes at the Nats, but obviously Billy's got a whole fleet of them, and Paul Walker's got the B-17, and I wouldn't be surprised if Frank McMillan still has the Martin Bakers, and oh man, I'm telling you, if there's anything I live for, it's semi-scale stunt. And a month or two from now, we're going to be over in the Battle of Britain Museum, and oh man, Frank McMillan even gave me a couple of key things to look for. They have the racing seaplane that was the predecessor to the Spitfires in a museum there. I have the address of the museum. Looking forward to it all. Spitfires. Hey, it's been a long road, and believe me, when I leave the shop at night, I turn out the lights, and I just think it's been such a great, actually a key part of my whole life being involved in this hobby. It's really been a great time. I really can't say I've not enjoyed 1 minute of it. And again, thanks to everybody that's contributed into this Spitfire project over the last couple of years. Books, magazines, just makes for some real special friends. And I have a feeling we're going to see even more semi-scale planes in the near future. And I'm sure we're going to see our comrades from England at Brodex this year, so hey, I can't wait, believe me. Karen can't wait. Just a few notations. I've had real good feedback from the people who have received that latest model of the gear. Everybody seemed impressed, including Frank McMillan. And by the way, one of the things that I've used this little thing looks like an I-beam wing to real good advantage, because obviously every day in the shop we get to spend about half the day doing molding parts. We're going to be making up some more spinner back plates. Both Noel and Frank have little prototypes to play with, test. We're going to be making up a brand new cowling mold for the Nobler cows. That mold is getting kind of worn and tired after so many pieces, and we've just been able to crank out an unlimited supply of gear. So having that video that I looked at, and I've looked at it over and over again, is really giving me some food for thought. And I hope one of the things I'm going to try to do when I cast this up tonight, I'm going to lay the molding rubber up. If I have any left over, I'm going to make a little mold for a carbon fiber belt crank, and we'll see if that becomes something usable. Anyway, we'll be working on that in the near future too. I happened to be in a hobby shop the other day, and I was looking at some low-gauge train stuff for my layout, picking up some more videos, by the way. And by the way, this is enamel, so it may be a problem, I don't know, but I bought the 3 colors that hopefully will be able to do the interior, the detailing around the cockpit. And these are pre-mixed colors. Let's see what they're, $1.99 each. But basically, they have every color on the planet, which I really was unaware of. I never went in there. It's called Model Master Paint. And I'm going to try using some of this on the inside of the canopy, which is probably an appropriate use for this. I just one other little tidbit I managed to pick up. We're ready to do that cockpit soon. Maybe coming pretty soon. I've been laying up some little test ports with the compression molding technique, and I still haven't resolved the problem of getting the last little few pinholes out, but boy, it really imparts a nice smooth surface on the outside. And these ports are very, very thin now. I don't know, maybe we're getting them too thin, but what it does, it really compresses this is the sock that originally goes over the mandrel. But what happens with that is, in a traditional pipe, there's always little mountains that just don't add anything to the part, just extra weight. So I'm hoping by having this squeezed out and flattened, I'll be able to make some real lightweight for myself and maybe for a few people that are interested. Really, really nice, lightweight, super lightweight pipes. Well, we'll see. More on this later. We got all the, by the way, this Teflon film that I've been using to lay up the gear. Boy, that's worked like a champ. And all the big cones, these guys are about as light as you can make a port. Now, rather than just belaboring this, I've watched this molding video over and over. This is from, I can't tell you, looking at their shop, I think it's really worth, even though some people may not have a total interest in this aspect of the hobby, I'm fascinated by the world of molding. I just feel like anybody that's not exposed to this or doesn't see it in real life, it would be impossible. I want to take about a 5-minute segment out of this tape where they walk through the shop. It has nothing to do with whether it's control line or RC. It just has an amazing shop. Take a look at this footage. Now you think laying up a gear is something special. Where do you see the stuff in this video? You think your stuff that you're doing is pretty sophisticated and pretty cool and everything, and then you see like this video from Germany. Oh my God. But keep in mind, even though this is not what we're basically doing, we can still learn, we can always pick up ideas, and we can always learn from other people, and that's, no matter who it is in the whole world, you are going to, from the person who you think you're a lot smarter than, or you think you're a lot, you know stuff and they don't know anything, you find out later on, you can learn from virtually everybody. I got to put this footage on a tape. I've watched it over and over again, and it's really impressive.
Visit to our factory, a memorable experience. Just call and give us some advance notice so we can coordinate presentation of our display models with a tour of our production shop, considered by most to be the highlight of the visit. See for yourselves the sophistication and effort that goes into each highly developed masterpiece. Let Fiberglass demonstrate what getting your money's worth can mean for you. Although computers are used in setting up the basic concept of a new model, and initial forms and plugs are shaped utilizing complex CNC technology, the real foundation of each model is through research of a full-sized aircraft. This means intensive study of original plans, 3 views, and as many photos as we can get. Only precise outline accuracy and fine detailing guarantees the dedicated aviation enthusiast and contest pilot total authenticity. Neither computer automation nor CNC milling techniques are any help achieving the minute detailing of complicated aircraft surfaces we demand. Indeed, the trademark which sets Fiberglass apart from all competition is the representation of every panel line, every riveted pattern, every fastener, painstaking duplicated by hand, a time-consuming labor of love. Individual panel lines and riveted rows are drawn on the original CNC milled forms and transferred to thin aluminum stock. Before any metal panels can be attached to the initial model surface, their detail and scale fidelity is checked and rechecked in relationship to the rest of the complex aircraft surface. Each small panel is cut out and detailed with rivet and screw heads. Every type of rivet and screw representation requires the production of special die tools. This process is repeated hundreds of times, panel for panel, until the plug is ready for the creation of the negative molds. Undercuts, or back-tapered shapes, often require complicated separation lines, in turn requiring highly complex supports in construction of the negative molds. We often reach deep into our bag of tricks before a negative mold is functional and ready for serious production. Only the most modern high-tech materials, such as ceramic surface resin, aviation-certified laminating adhesives, and most recently, laminating ceramics, guarantee perfect copies of highly constructed aircraft surfaces. Molds made this way serve their purposes well for many years, and fiberglass components can never be better than their mold. In this particular case, the object of desire is the P-51 Mustang. A customer arrives waiting to see what makes Fiberglass's products stand out from the rest of the world's scale market. His visit makes him as a serious scale modeler with high standards. His wife can also take advantage of the chance to see what goes on behind the scenes. We'll show her good reasons to see Fiberglass's aircraft as an investment in value and time, in which Fiberglass does the lion's share of the development and construction. Hundreds of hours her husband will have spent in his workshop on a scratch-built airplane. Valuable family time she'll appreciate. We're proud to have our entire production operation under one roof. This allows innovation ideas and new methods to be quickly and continuously integrated into the production process. Our visitors haven't made up their minds yet, but we expect that to change during our tour. Here are the molds for the Junkers Ju-52 are spread out in front of us, all 47 of them. The silver finish already applied, but not before each part has been cleaned and waxed. Each unit requires specific patterns for its composite layup. Templates are used to cut fiberglass, carbon fiber, and Kevlar materials to exactly the right shape. The finest glass cloth guarantees a smooth, unpitted surface, while carbon and Kevlar strengthening components to the toughest standards. The more precise the material is cut, the better the finish of part will be. Material for sandwich constructed wings must be cut to close tolerance to ensure the complex sandwich wing building process is successfully completed. The pre-cut materials are laid carefully into the form, which has already been coated with epoxy. We have to be familiar with the smallest corners and details of each mold necessary to produce perfect parts every time. The slightest neglect and the part is unusable after removal from the mold. Every move counts. Success depends on each step being done exactly the right sequence in the race against the clock. A race in which the utmost precision and craftsmanship are mandatory prerequisites. It may not be easy for our visitors to visualize the finished part, since we're only looking at the inside of the mold. Yet it's the clean inside of the laminate which proves highest quality of the production part. Total concentration is needed to avoid mistakes. Since Fiber Classics employs only professionals trained in fiberglass production, our finished parts will stand the closest scrutiny. Epoxy, once mixed, only has a limited working time until the hardness process starts. A precise time plan must be developed to produce a complex component. Carbon fiber and Kevlar reinforcements must be precisely placed as prescribed by the aircraft designer to provide maximum strength with minimum weight. When the layup is completed and the mold halves are joined for curing, the job is done. Our technicians have an enormous amount of experience and know what our exacting customers really want. Most of the components of Fiber Classics models consist not only of a simple shell, but bulkheads, formers, and other parts, which are made using computer milling techniques to ensure a precise fit. A Fiber Classic model usually contains more than 100 such parts, which are glassed in place during the lamination process. The bond is several times stronger when installed before the laminate is cured completely. And the high degree of prefabrication on major components saves you lots of work too. All wooden parts to be installed by the customer are shaped to exact fit and packaged in logical groups, as well as all the other hardware included in the Fiber Classics kit. The most exciting moment in the production process of fiberglass components is the release from the mold. After the mold is unscrewed, the upper half is carefully removed. The degree of metal surface realism captured in the aluminum-colored skin is astounding. Looks just like the real thing. An initial vision check is made after cleaning up the cutouts and separation lines. Now totally removed from the mold, a finished front fuselage of the F-86 stands in front of us in silver-painted perfection, almost all construction done. Our two visitors are impressed with the high quality of work being done to achieve a level of prefabrication unequaled in this business. All openings are milled and sanded in this workstation. A thorough quality control inspection rules out mistakes or irregularities. This completes the component production process. An extreme example of total prefabrication is our GB fuselage. Cabin window openings, access door, and stabilizer mount are already cut out. All wooden bulkheads are already installed. Even the two-colored painted scheme is done in a negative form. Let's look over the shoulder of our painter as he paints the first color into the mold. The masking is removed before the second color is applied. Fiberglass Wings pose the biggest challenge to our team. This is professional aircraft construction in miniature, starting right with the lamination process. Talented and highly motivated experts have every movement memorized. A perfect outer surface calls for very finely woven glass and precisely placed carbon fiber reinforcements do the job where strength is needed. Cloth pre-cut to close tolerance contributes to clean and accurate work. The desired glass to epoxy ratio can only be achieved by using the minimum amount of resin, which is weighed to the gram to guarantee the predefined weight of the finished component. A special high-density sandwich foam ensures a stiff outer skin with high rigidity. Cone-shaped carbon fiber spars are glassed into this sandwich, giving our high-tech wing its ultimate strength. The wing molds, complete with epoxy layups, are prepared for vacuum bagging. A membrane-thin, flexible film is placed on the molds and tightly sealed. Under high temperature and vacuum, the wing half shells are cured for several hours, which results in a well-bonded sandwich of great strength. Continuing the process, the film is removed and the wing half shells are prepared for joining. A composite wing consists of an outer shell with spar and rib internal construction. Internal parts are milled to exact fit. This pair of F-86 wings have leading-edge slapped hardware, gear mounts, wing mounts, spars, and support ribs to be precisely installed and glassed in place. This is extremely labor-intensive and has to be done right the first time. Once the halves are joined, there's no turning back. Concentration and tension runs high during this process, creating an atmosphere which doesn't escape our two visitors either. But fiber classic aircrafts aren't made totally of fiberglass. A mirror of small details gives the scale model its special aura, all needing to be built for the specific aircraft type. This especially fascinates our visitors. They'd actually rather be working than watching. In flexible forms, we mold scale details like exhaust manifolds, cannon barrels, dummy radio, and lots more. Each item is designed and built for a specific model, and simply are not otherwise available for purchase on the scale model accessory market. Small fairings and forms, as well as clear canopies, are made by vacuum forming plastic sheets. The production of these small items is just as labor intensive as for large components. There they are, all lined up, the objects of desire. At Fiber Classics, we build 40 to 50 individual components every day, which are carefully stored until a series of kits is completed for packaging. All accessories, such as landing gears, wheels, and power units, are stored here also, ready to meet your needs for a complete aircraft. This service is gratefully accepted by many of our customers. There's only one more little thing, the price. Still superb quality and well-engineered designs seem to have made a convincing argument. Quality is never cheap, but Fiber Classics gives value. Our visitors have made their decision. We offer you the same solution Let your dreams come alive. The Supermarine Spitfire is one of the most beautiful warbirds. The elliptical wings make it unique. So many warbird enthusiasts say it's the most beautiful one ever built. Fiberglass felt the same, so it was a natural choice to build this superb aircraft as a scale kit. The impressive size of 102 inches wingspan and the total weight of 14 to 16 kilos results in low wing loading. In flight now is a Mark 9 version with the elliptic rudder, 2 big radiators, and a long nose. Different options gives you the choice which version to build from Mark 1 to Mark 9. Landing the Spitfire is so easy. All typical stories about narrow landing gear, small tail surface, and critical flying characteristics are blown away by the Fiberglass Spitfire. Now see the performance with the 60cc engine. Loops and rolling are easy to fly. Which warbird flies more realistic than this Spitfire replica? kit features already silver-painted and highly prefabricated fiberglass parts. You can choose so many different options. For example, different canopies, spinners, radiators, rudders, exhaust dummies. Compared to other warbirds, the fiberglass Spitfire builds in very little time. This might be the most important fact for everyone who wants to get into the air quickly.
You enjoyed that little presentation. That, believe me, there's a lot more on that video. That's only a tiny part of it. Anyway, what I did, I made up a brand new, while that video was playing, a brand new True Turn 2-inch, and I have 4 Randy 2-inches, and a brand new Nobler Cowling mold that I poured up. We'll come back to these tomorrow. Let it dry 24 hours, maybe even a little longer. Come back to this tomorrow, and the object of having a 4-cavity mold is Randy thinks there'll be good sales on these. And obviously, rather than making 4 individual molds, this is just a little bit easier. It's like doing multiple apartment houses, having a multiple cavity mold. They give us a chance to try some different resins out and try some different material. More on this as we go, but just think about that fiberglass thing. That was unbelievable. I thought that was really cool. Anyway, we'll be back. Yeah, the 4-cavity mold came out real nice. And what I did, I was so happy with the way this came out, I called up this company that sells the Smooth Sill 912, and I want to get their exact casting resin that they recommend for using with this product. And this was really, I don't know, I'm really happy. I'm a lot happier with this than with the Dow Corning product. Anyway, the next thing is Bill Hummel sent me up, this is his light, the True Turn light, and needless to say, it's all machined out in a standard one. I'm going to try to pour up a mold for this today too, so being I have orders for quantity, I want to be able to make 4 at a time now. And 1 at a time is not going to do it. All these 1 at a time guys, yeah, they're fine if you're making 1 for yourself, 1 for your friend, or whatever, but when you need to make up 20 or 15 or whatever, a multi-cavity mold is the way to go. And this way, you would think you have a better shot at once you start to lay these up and figure out how much tow and how much resin, how much cloth, whatever. Come up with a formula for how much material is going to go in these. This would be kind of cut and dry. Learned so far is the only problem that we've really had to sustain is, you can see in these parts, you see the little air bubbles? Now what we're going to do is set up some kind of a little vacuum chamber that we can pull the air bubbles out of the mold. That'll be the next step in this. But because we know now that there will be orders for these, and we can at least, in this case, make some product out of it, I want to set up 1 for every type of back plate that I have, at least 1. And I guess the most popular one will be Randy's Spinner, the 2-inch one, but we do have the 2 1/4. And once I can get the vacuum pull on this, that'll get rid of the little air bubbles. And you can see how the toe lays in there. The toe really lays in there nice on these molds. I mean, this is cosmetic stuff. This is only the cosmetic stuff when you go to sell one. You don't want to sell one to a customer with a piece like that. But any of these are still serviceable. And these we can use in our test program, needless to say, to make sure that these are going to be, well, once we get some flying weather, that we don't run into an unanticipated problem with these. This is by far the best molding rubber we've found so far. Smooth Sill 912, no question about it. This is the brand new Brodak Nobler mold that I made with Smooth Sill. Again, I'm real happy. In fact, I went, and I hope this is going to be even better. This will be another good tip to pass on. They make a release agent that'll prolong the life of these. Now, we've been getting about 30 or maybe a little more out of these. By the time the mold gets a little, just you lose the surface of it. And what happens is, I would like to make the mold life a little longer. So they do make a release agent. We have that on order, and we have the casting resin that recommended by that company to work in conjunction with this molding rubber. So it'll be interesting to see if that works any better than the material we're using from Aerospace Composites. this is what would happen to the Dow Corning rubber after 30 or maybe a little more, maybe 35 pulls. You see the little pieces, and of course then what we'd have to do is sand these out, so it would make for extra labor. This material, yeah, it worked well at the time we were using it, but there's so many of these parts being made and sold now that I really have to have a little bit better production capability, and I think that smooth sill is really the trick to making this, to going to the next level. The smooth sill is the way to go. So skip this step if you're going to make a mold or a cavity mold for back plates. Just skip it all together and go right to the smooth sill 912. And these parts that are made in these rubber molds, once they're done, well, that's just about as light as you can possibly make anything, and nice and solid and a beautiful finish all at the same time. What I found is a good tip in doing this, and we're going to be making up the exhaust manifold soon and a couple other products. One of the things I learned that's real important is if you try to mix a real small amount of this molding rubber, well, I don't know, it's real hard to get the catalyst. Even though you do it with a grain scale, it's difficult. The minimum amount I try to mix is like 200 or 300 grams of the stuff at a time. Then I know I can get the mix right. And I have had times that it hasn't cured just right, or there's been other little problems that go with this material. But if you mix a cupful, and this is about 350 grams, now when you make the mold, the original mold that you want to use, well, we know we can always use a couple extra of these back plates, so I can then have cavities for a dozen or for more at a time. And the idea of that is then once you set up to mix the resin also, it's hard to mix little batches of this stuff. Little batches, it's hard to get the catalyst exactly right. But when you're mixing a big enough amount, even if you're off by a couple of drops or so, it doesn't really matter. And in this case, we know we're going to be able to make these over and over and over again, being able to make 12 at a time, 8 at a time, 10 at a time, as opposed to 1 at a time. Like on an example, like on a Corian mold for the landing gear, the mold is very expensive. It's labor intensive. But making these molds is relatively easy. Once you have the aluminum part, and it's only an hour maybe or so, and you can be making your own carbon fiber parts. And there's no reason you can't make. There's other things obviously coming. Belt cranks are one of the things I'm already thinking about making. There's other things that would be appropriate now that we have the material in-house and we have large quantities of the tow in-house and we're going to be getting different resins. Now it opens up the door to making even more products than in the beginning when we were just experimenting with this stuff for the first time. Now what's real convenient for me is I've been working parallel with Jeff Stiefel, and George Venturini Jr., that both have made vacuum boxes for pulling a vacuum on this material. Now, it just happens that this is not a good day to do it. Karen's sick and I don't want to leave the house, so I've been trying to do things around the house. But the next time we're out, and maybe next week, we'll get up to Jeff's. He's been doing glider wings with vacuum bagging. He has a vacuum pump, and obviously, you can upgrade the product just a little bit. Well, maybe a lot, I don't know. But the next step for us on this is going to be to get into the vacuum bagging end of it and see if we can make the parts even lighter, even better. It's an unending quest. Now I've learned another little trick pouring this stuff. Boy, oh boy, this stuff, you sure don't want to pour it in all at once. Just dunk it in. Just get around all the cavity details, like especially on this one that's got all this machine shop work done on it. First couple times I poured this in, I just dumped it in, and there was air bubbles everywhere. But see, the vacuum, pulling a vacuum on this will get rid of, here comes some air bubbles now as I speak. And making the things that I found that have been real helpful is just mixing larger than amounts of material than you need. I tried many times to mix like a ½ ounce just to pour one of these little cavities, and oh my God, it seems like you get one drop too much hardener in there and the material doesn't dry with the same consistency. Anyway, we have Noel Drindak, Bill Hummel, and Frank McMillan all trying some of these products to see if we can break them, see if we can find a way of making them better, and I'm sure we will. But you got to start somewhere. You know, it would be nice if you could start by making the lunar shuttle or something, but you have to start making something where you can get familiar with the material, get familiar with how to use it. And I really feel like, and I just happen to be making a copy of one of the early molding videos for a customer. And I looked at when we were making some of those early molds, how they were all breaking and polyester resin, and Ed Gallagher used to call me up every day and holler at me. Well, it seems like now we've had a lot better luck, and we can make commercially available products at what I think is a really good price compared to if you had to do all the work yourself. And boy, I hope you picked up some ideas off of that video. That Fiber Classics video just blows my mind. That is really something. Now see all the air bubbles coming to the top over here? If we had a vacuum pump right now, we could just put that in a little chamber, they'd all be gone in one stroke of the pen. Look, I just made the right amount here. Isn't this amazing? And tomorrow we'll have 6 more cavities. I got a little time this afternoon. What I was looking at doing, I wanted to lay up one plug for the exhaust manifolds. This is the box that originally Joe Adamusco and you can see how much work we put into this. And we made a bunch of, I call these the dummy things, the phony things. What I want to do now is I want to really make a really nice mold of those Siamese exhausts. What I'm looking for is a piece of tubing here with the right dimension on it. This looks about right. And this is, I think, air conditioning tubing, I'm not sure. Here's the old original, the ones we made for the original Spitfire. And they had a chunk. We were still... There's so much you learn as you go through this. Using this basically for my model, but I want to cut a piece because I want this angle to come off just a little bit. And the reason this isn't going to work like I thought, you see how this goes right in? So really, the only part of this I might be able to use is the actual piece of the tubing. I think it's easier if I just start carving this, anyway, with carving up a block of wood. And my plan is to make one, put a nice finish on it, cast it, use the casting to make a triple piece, and then make a mold for the triple piece so I can make individual stacks or a whole slew of 3. Start with a block of wood. Let me just get an idea about where this would come out. Make an impression. I can slice this off because it's this bend I can't get. This bend, see the difference in the bends? This bend isn't the bend that we're trying to model. So now I can cut this dimension, and then I'll have at least a rough outline of the piece that I want to start the carving with. Now to get the angle right, this is important, and that's why I took a slice, because I want these all to line up. When this exhaust comes out, it can't block the one before it. I can see I cut this a little bit too short. I need to go cut another block and add just a little bit to it. Otherwise, what's going to happen, one is going to run into the other one. And now we've got the angle right, that one will not be exhausting right into the face of the other one. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to do all the carving on one. I really only need to make one piece, and from that casting then, when I replicate it, it should be relatively accurate. Now, as I'm roughing this out, I have to constantly be aware of the fact that these have to kind of interlock. And if I don't take this into account, when I'm all done, I'm really going to have some crazy looking thing here. So this is where it kind of gets tricky, but when I put the end on, and it's still too short. You believe this? Well, not really, but it's getting close anyway. I really need to get this, because this is going to be my master plug, and if I'm not happy with it, I'll just keep making it over and over again. Except when you're working on a little part like this, you got to be able to hold it when you put the final cuts in. I get the first coat of thin CA on there and I can start to see the shape of the part. Now I'm not sanding soft to hard, I'm sanding all hard surfaces. I can start to get the finish on this. Now I've been trying to taper this so that you get the illusion when you look in there that it's hollow. Yeah, the Brodak primer has dried on this, and this really looks nice. The thing nice about the Brodak primer, it leaves a beautiful surface ready. Now, one of the things I want to do, I want to take a little Gorham's and I want to polish this out just a little bit so when I actually cast the mold, it'll have that nice smooth surface on it. This is about 3 coats of Brodak primer sanded with 1200 between coats. And it really leaves a nice, it's like similar to auto primer, it leaves a really nice surface. And one of the things you notice if you're using Brodak primer, number one, you can use Brodak primer, and it's, like I said, I think it's a good analogy to treat it in a similar way that you would treat DuPont 30 Auto Primer. It's a high fill primer. The only characteristic it has that's different, and it's a good characteristic in our case, is it can be buffed out. And in this case, it can be buffed out the next day after painting, or maybe even sooner. We haven't really tried that. But here's what I wanted to try to do with this part, and this is, actually you probably could paint a plane if you wanted it to be white, just paint it with Brodak primer and buff it out. It sounds like that might not be too out of the question, I'd say on some trainers or profiles or something. The thing is to try to get the right material for the right object that we're trying to accomplish here, and in this case, we want to get a nice smooth shiny surface on this. And it doesn't take long, and that just a matter of a minute and it's buffed. So there really are some good uses for Brodak primer. We don't want to skip over any of them. And for doing molds, that just happens to be one good one. Dennis Toth passed on a nice little tip, and I'm going to try it here. He says he's been waxing his plane with part oil number 2. I don't know about that. This is really a high carnauba base wax, so it tends to be like old Simonized, where it's really, you know, you get spoiled by modern waxes where they come right off. But the polish that it imparts is, wow. Anyway, we're going to try it when we lay up this little casting, and that's going to be the next thing. We're going to make the rubber plug for this. I'm going to try putting a coat of part oil on this part, right over Brodak primer, and we'll see what the release surface looks like. Hard to believe that's primer. I know that looks like white paint. A lot of people don't have that finish on their plane. Anyway, it's something I wanted to get plenty of wax in there, so when this release is nice and clean, I don't really care about that, and I'll finish that on the final parts. Alright, that's ready to do the casting. Okay, now I made a little box, of course, and I'll fill this with the molding rubber. Tomorrow when I come down to the shop, 24 hours after cure, I'll pull a box apart, pull a plug out, and we'll see what we have. And we'll be able to, we have several choices then. We can make one manifold with 3, or we can just cast each one individually. Again, we're going to have to see, we're going to have to lay it up on the plane itself and see what it looks like in the final prototype stage. Now, in doing this pour, this is a good tip, and I don't know if this is going to work. See, we have to get all the epoxy, the air bubbles starting to form in there. So what I'm trying to do is do the pour and make sure this little area gets filled. And what I'm going to do is put a little cover on this and let it sit this way for a while so that the air will come up once I do the pour. I'm trying to make sure I don't have any air bubbles in that area there. And this is one of the things you have to anticipate when you're making up a mold, is where those air bubbles are going to wind up. Now, once we get our vacuum machine, which maybe we'll have by next week, I don't know. I want to see how Jeff's is working out. Jeff has agreed to, teach me everything he knows about glider wings. So, of course, we're always looking for a way we can pick up more information to put into the program. that looks like it's pretty well set. But again, I'm still not happy with knowing that might not, in the end of this, it may have a big air pocket. I don't want that either. A lot of times you just have to fool with it a little bit. There it goes. Like any material, it takes a little time getting used to it. Now, if we had a vacuum, we could pull a vacuum on this and how to get rid of it right away, but we're trying to make do with the minimum equipment that an average person would have right in their cellar. And it's had such a nice dimension into anybody's modeling that I can't imagine that we wouldn't want to know everything we possibly could know, even from the glider people or the RC people, or even that high-end stuff that's coming from Germany. Really interesting stuff. And if we ever get to that day where we have full fuselage planes like the RC people do, can you imagine? A Cardinal fuselage or an SV11 fuselage, and all you have to do is plug in some foam wings, hook up the lead outs and belt crank, and you're ready to finish. You change the hobby. Even if people weren't allowed to compete with those, or if we had people arguing about the build of the model rule, which was what happened with foam wings, we would still add hundreds and hundreds of people that are sport flyers and don't care about the nationals. See, by doing this, I'm hoping I'm going to get out all the air bubbles, and this is really the only way I know to get rid of all of them. We'll see in the final casting when I take this out. Now, of course, we don't want to waste any of this extra rubber, so any of the molds we pour and we have extra, we're just going to make extra backplate molds, because these are the ones I'm anticipating will have the most use for, and when the molds get a little worn, we can just replace it with a brand new one. So none of this ever really goes to waste. As long as you save the plugs from the backplate molds, you're really getting a good value here. You don't waste any of the rubber either. So we have the both of them cast, an extra backplate, and that little exhaust, and we'll pull those apart tomorrow. And we're near the end of this tape. All the molds are over there drying and cooking and everything. And one of the things, it's time for me really, I have to get serious about two things. I have to start doing my canopy detailing, which I'll start making up the parts ahead of time, even though I haven't gotten the prototype canopy from Midgley yet, but I'm going to put that on the next tape. We're going to start making up little parts. One of the things I'm going to start doing is looking at my Spitfire videos and the videos of building the original planes for ideas on things that I possibly can add to this model, and sort through and see which one of these things I like, which ones I don't like, which ones I want to make better, like those exhaust manifolds, which ones I can add new dimensions to this model that I don't have before.